Hello, friends. This is Chetan from Mumbai, India. Good afternoon, everybody. Good to connect with my countrymen and women, millennials, professionals, all British Asians, at the request of my chedi buddy Hemang Palan, and will be talking to you for 5 to 7 minutes in my individual capacity. Friends, I will try to make this discussion or a talk absolutely as simplistically as I can. The reason behind it is I am not going to bore you with any of the numbers, data, analytics, so that you have to remember any of these things. All those things are easily available on various sites along with the full analysis. So I will not going to talk anything on any of the numbers, be it GDP, employment, economic growth, etc. Nothing on that sort. I will just be talking plain vanilla, which till now I have been strictly following for my personal career also, and also in the various forums where I am volunteering with various educational institutes also in the similar way, in a simplistic way, and which is more practical oriented. So coming, I myself is coming from a middle class Gujarati Banya family, hailing from a small town called Verawal of Gujarat, and will still try to provide you the simplistic parameters which may enthuse you to know more about the banking industry, to know more about how the banking industry is shaping up in India. And it's an ever going process, it's an evolution. It's not that today what has happened we may not happen tomorrow. It's an evolution. So over a period of 25 years been in banking industry, I understand how it has evolved and how the changes are happening, how the resentment has been happening from the employees side also. To just give you a small example, when the people were moving from a physical ledgers where we used to write physical ledgers of all the entries, which whenever the customer used to come to us, and we moved those physical ledgers to the computerization. As a result of the computerization, there was a lot of hue and cry that because of computerization there will be unemployment. People were not able to understand at that point of time that Baba, computerization se unemployment badta nahi hai. On the other hand, the systems becomes more robust, more fast, and at the same point of time employment increases. The day, if I have to talk of some 15 years back when the computerization and everything was started, there was tremendous amount of resentment. The number of the branches at that point of time vis-a-vis the today's numbers of the branches is humongous, is drastically changed. Why I am trying to make this point at this juncture and at the start of the discussion is that because we are in that second era of the transformation. This era is of digital age, and we are on that cusp of that. And again that talk has started that whether this will be a challenge for the employment within India or outside India. So I will just bring up that point in the coming discussions, what we are going to discuss in few minutes. Just to give you a small brief, in India we have got 4 tiers of banks. One, public sector banks, the likes of Bank of Baroda, the State Bank of India, etc. We have got private sector banks, the likes of Axis Bank, the likes of HDFC Bank, the likes of ICICI Bank. These are all called private sector bank. The difference between both the banks is that public sector banks is majorly owned by the government of India. The private sector bank is being held by the private few of the top end corporates. The HDFC is coming from the stables of the HDFC Limited. Axis Bank is coming from an institution called UTI, elsewhere UTI. ICICI Bank is again coming from once upon a time there was an institute called ICICI Limited, which was pioneers in the project finance area. So these are called the private sector banks. Major of these banks are listed banks, listed on the stock exchanges of India, typically on the National Stock Exchange and the Bombay Stock Exchange. The third kind of the bank is the foreign banks, the likes of Standard Chartered Bank, the Bank of America, the Citibank, etc. And the fourth area, the fourth tier of the bank is the cooperative banks. These are the cooperative banks which are opened under the Cooperatives Act of India, with the Cooperatives Act, and the likes of the good banks of the cooperative banks are the Saraswat Bank, the Samrao Vittal Cooperative Bank, the Cosmos Bank. I mean, there are a lot of host of banks are there. And why I am trying to give you the differentiation of these four different banks, just to show you and showcase you the size of the business in the banking industry, how big it is. Now coming back to the same thing, that why this particular banks, effectively if you go into the things, boss, why there may be so much need of the bank. Let me share with you, the need of the bank goes along with the need and the demand of the respective corporates, respective areas. If I am talking of the foreign banks, then the foreign banks are required because there are multinational companies who are either in India, or there are a lot of Indian corporates who have got their offices outside India. So there is a lot of trade transactions required between those countries. And unfortunately, till in India, we don't have the rupee convertibility. Therefore, this particular banks are required for a lot of rupee conversion, from rupee to dollar, rupee to UK, I mean to the pound, and rupee to euro. So there are a lot of requirements out there. If you go by the private sector banks, why private sector banks? Private sector banks are the banks which are very agile, very fast, and trying to understand the customers faster than the other existing public sector banks. Okay, because they are being run by various norms which have been put up into the systems, because it's a kind of government oriented banks. So that is one of the major reasons that yes, there have been private sector banks which are agile, and obviously public sector banks are also catching up very fast, and they are also doing very well. However, because of the decisioning speed, or because of the new age technology, the private sector banks are scoring slightly higher, and they are going ahead with the private sector banks, and their need is also the need which they can cater to the corporates as well as the local public is also slightly higher and better. And therefore there are a lot of private sector banks which have been in India. So you would have heard when the private sector banks started coming in India in 1991. At that point of time also there was a lot of hue and cry that what is the need of a private sector bank. But today as we speak, there are biggest private sector banks which are ranking in 1 to 50 of the global banks. So effectively the need of the banking is still there, the size which is required is still there, and still I personally feel that it is just a whether have we fully penetrated on the banking side in the capital market in India. Answer is big no. Still there is a huge room, and in India too the need or the demand for banking at every level. By level I mean tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities or the towns of India. Within those cities or the towns of the India, still I feel so the requirement of the bank is hardly met. Still it is lot of under penetration is still there, and thereby there is a still huge scope for many more such big banks in India to flourish, and therefore it will help for India to grow further. Here I am not still touching upon, there are 2 or 3 more areas which we call it as a para banking, the likes of NBFCs, that is non-banking finance companies. There are a lot of cooperative societies at a lower level which we are not talking, but there are multiple cooperative societies in India also working. There are a lot of non-banking finance companies also working in India which are kind of a para banking, which are doing the para banking work. They also do the they also do the lending and the borrowing the way we as a banks do, and they are also being regulated by the RBI. But there are certain relaxations to those para banking organizations, but those institutes do also the same thing what banks are doing, but with a slight change in terms of their service offerings. the slight change in terms of their turnaround time. So this is where there is a coexistence of all these organizations, be it public sector bank, be it private sector bank, be it para-banking institutes. What is we are figuring it out over a period of time in the banking is that with over a period of time we have seen there is a need of change in the skill sets. Every time, every 1 year or a 2 year, you need to keep on changing the skill sets. You need to understand and you need to keep learning to unlearn what is learned for the betterment on an ongoing basis. Keep developing the new style, kind of skill sets, asking for the skill sets, different type of skill sets from the market. As every point of time there is a change in the requirement of a skill set. Now I will give you a specific example for this particular skill sets. What are those examples which are required as a part of skill set is that, to give you a simple example, earlier credit function was at a center stage, then it became the finance as a center stage, then it became compliance as a center stage, and now today as we speak digital or IT is at a center stage. I will not be surprised that in the coming days the AI or the artificial intelligence or machine language will take the center stage. So it is an evolving world requiring more and more skilled warm bodies to meet the need of the people. So in order to meet the needs of the common man, banks in India, apart from normal banking, have also diversified into various other businesses, various other activities. I'll give you a simple example. One, insurance. Within insurance, there are 3 different types of insurance which the banks have got into it. Not as a third party distributor, but as also as an investor or as one of the subsidiaries of their companies. There are 3 different types of insurances: life insurance, health insurance, and another is the normal insurance. That is what we call it as a general insurance, where you take the insurance for the motor car or the 2-wheelers, whatever it is. So these are the 3 insurance which comes under the insurance sector. Securities broking. Within securities broking, you do the retail broking, you do the merchant banking part of it, you also do the institutional part of the banking, broking. That is the second business. Third business, AMC, asset management companies, the likes of the mutual fund business, what you do, the trustee business. So in India, as a banks, they all are doing all this business. Having said so, over and above this, there is one good opportunity which has come up not very recently, but over 3-4 period, since last 4-5 years, it has really flourished. That is, banks have been granted the license to do business in the GIFT City, which is nothing but a global financial and IT hub located near Gandhinagar in Gujarat, wherein by all the trades are executed in USD only, as it is a multi-service spatial economic zone. So in toto, I would like to personally say that banking in India, banks business in India is underpenetrated, and with the IT and the digital advancements, it is really a good scope for growth to reach to the farthest man in India as well as globally. So we'll be happy to help you in case if you have any specific questions. All the best and namaste. Thank you.